morning, I'm Vykintas Baltakas. I have a little strange name for my lecture. Music is a living being. Just to say me, like I'm totally not a religious person, and it's nothing exoteric or something like that. It is based on very actually rational idea. Just imagine, we have one note, yeah? Bum, something like that. So in that one note, we have several elements. Like we have the pitch, okay, we can control it. We have duration, we have color, we have loudness, and something else, maybe few. But basically, like let's say we can after that we can say maybe some dynamic element which would describe getting louder, getting. But let's stay with these few very simple elements. So basically, if we have this one pitch, we are fully in control of the process. So we can really have it like in our hands. But now, let's say we have we after this one note, we create a second one. Yeah. So we have in that case again these four elements: the duration, pitch, color, what is loudness, etc. So now we have four elements at least in the first note, four elements in the second, which we can fully control. But we have something else as well. We have extra elements which actually would describe the relationship between the first note and the second note. Yeah. So that's actually could be let's say something. Let's say the second note, because everything is in relation. The second note is higher, the second note is shorter, the second note is louder, etc. So okay, so we have four, and maybe let's say 3 or 4, which are describing the relation. Still in control. Now we add the third note. So and again now we have these 4 elements extra for that pitch, for that note. And now we have actually something even more complex. Now we have a relation between the second note and the third note. And also we have a relationship somehow between the first note and the third note. Yeah? So now you can see that actually it starts to grow really potential, in potential form. And so, so basically, after I really doubt if it's possible to write a simple melody in a fully rational way, where we can say, okay, I control everything as a composer, yeah? Because it becomes, let's say, if you write a melody, it's just like becomes, there are so many relationships and so many interrelations between all these notes, all these, maybe some pitches are repeating, so actually it comes a new element, maybe something, okay, we have I mean, these elements are not written somehow. I mean, the elements are coming also contextual from the context. So let's say maybe if you have repeated note or repeated rhythm, so that it becomes an important element, a musical element, which takes a place. So what I'm saying basically, that's they are composers which are believing they can control fully. They are some sort of dictatorship relationship to the music. That's what I write, and I know what I'm doing, and that's what it is. And as you see, this is almost impossible even to do in one melody. Yeah, I'm even not talking about complex works. So now another in process of that, what we can say, that actually there are certain things we as composers or musicians which we are bringing into the process, but there are many things which are coming or creating by itself. Yeah, because we decide, because we take one decision in the left, something else just happens on the right. For example, you write a certain. You have we have three voices, yeah. In these three voices, you have simple melodies, yeah, do with different pitches, and then you have in the second voice kind of the same with different pitches, and they are vertical aligned, and you have again the third voice with all the different pitches, and what happens? Just let's say at some point, just by accident, comes a repetition of a chord. Yeah, comes in this, let's say, in this melodical sequence, comes one chord which will be repeated twice. Which is you never composed that. Yeah, you never composed that, but it can become an incredible strong musical moment. Let's say, imagine that this chord is not just a simple chord, which is less understandable, but it's a very strong, well-known chord with strong history. Let's say C major chord, yeah, da da da, and you have it twice in your melody. So, and this is now becomes a little bit like a situation with what to do as a composer. So this is that's basically what I'm talking about. They are different. Come in. You're late. No, this is like, let's say you have. We have two different strategies of thinking. Or at the same time music writing. Let's say one is deductive. When you, I mean basically, let's say one is deductive and another inductive, and it's just basically one is when you start with a whole, and you go after that into the details. Yeah, just in musical terms. You compose a form, you compose a clear structure, and after that you go to writing detail out the details. Yeah, just a very good example of that would be let's say sonata form, or basically everything what Stockhausen did, etc. Now another way of composing would be actually writing with detail and going from one step into another, which actually. Yeah, another example would be, for example, Wolfgang Grieg. Yeah, so that's just a typical example of music composed in such a way. But anyway, let's say now imagine, let's say this idea when you control everything. You start with a form and you go into the details, and suddenly you recognize that actually the music composed itself also, and it composed itself, some C major chords here and there, or let's say you can say maybe not even C major chords, but the chords are so important you never thought about it. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking. This is nothing. Doesn't say about, oh, composer is bad, the composer didn't think about. No, this is a reality. This is a reality. We are not able to do that. And now, and this becomes actually a question of a composer. How do I react to it? What is my stand? Let's say I believed that I'm full in control, and suddenly I have the C major chords. Now, what I can do, I can just one strategy would be like oscillate, like just put your head into the sand and just pretend there's nothing happening. Yeah. Interesting position, because actually I do not think it's a very good position, because actually somehow in this way you are ignoring quite a lot, what is maybe interesting, or maybe wrong, and you have to take care. Yeah. Or another position would be actively accept first and actively react. So basically, now what is the situation is a little like what now we are talking about the relationship between music and a composer. It's not a composer, the majesty which decides everything. No, I'm talking now rather about a duo. And again, no religion, no esoterics, nothing. It's just reality. But actually, so now actually we are coming more with this position, more out of this very pure situation as a composer. We are moving more into the situation as performing artist or improviser. I mean, this is performing artist. Like, it is actually, if you accept that music has own things to say, or is also talking, let's say like that. So basically, now the question would be actually to listen. Yeah. And this is basically, these are the next steps and the next actions what composers do basically. It's let's say if we are talking about a relationship, a chamber music relationship between a composer and the music, it's actually in a chamber music relationship. It doesn't matter which style. The most important thing is listening, and listening and trying to understand what also the music wants to do. Again, it's not to make now the opposite, not to make the role of a composer small and unimportant. No, it is very important because actually you are taking decisions. I mean, it's just like in a conversation. You listen to, you bring the counter arguments, or you can, let's say, you can decide not to accept certain directions which music proposed to you. You can go against, you can destroy it, for example. All of that is in your disposition, but all that includes a very important moment to accept and to listen, and to not just to go in one way. Okay, and another thing. So this actually opens. The situation actually opens quite many now new possibilities. Actually, if we see from this point of view. By the way, I just wanted a small postscriptum maybe. It's also, let's say, if you work really like this. This is my personal maybe point. If you work in a very rational way and you go from the big picture into the small details, I think anybody who has done that at some point probably has arrived to a situation where it's kind of strange and frustrating situation, where you're becoming less interested after you have done the big picture, after you have done a structure, etc. Now you are becoming some sort of realizer. Just okay, now I need to write so many notes, and so actually it's a big part of creativity goes away, at least in my field somehow. And another point is that actually you're always kind of confronted with that dilemma. Let's say, okay, you do your structure, you do a really very strong, rational, but you always will arrive at a moment where you can say, okay, wow, this is something totally new. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect this, let's say, the relationship, like this voice which I'm fully in control, and this voice which I'm fully in control, we're talking to each other. I never expected that. And so actually now it's a question, actually, it's not only that we're talking, but it becomes maybe a super important part. And super important part, which is actually even more important than what I was actually initially was doing. And now actually in this situation comes really like a huge dilemma. Okay, well, what can I do now? Do I proceed with my rational structure and go on and just ignore, or do I somehow incorporate? Yeah. So this is it's not a theoretical question. It's a super practical. At least that's how I perceive it. But okay. So now we are one step more. Let's say we accept that and we start to listen. We start to work with it. By the way, as a living entity, that also for me, how I see it's a little bit metaphor, but I see as music as many atoms. Let's say it's not only not only pitches, not only rhythms, but actually all these atoms kind of they are moving, they are searching, they are and this is so it can go in a very small it can go on a very small micro level, atomic level, maybe about some color, maybe about some so I don't know, some particular flageolet, which becomes somehow in that particular context incredible important. Okay, good. So basically, if you start to listen, so first, it's a nice moment actually. It can make you much more free, because it's in the same way as for example, in let's say if you play jumper music with a partner. So it is nice that it's not everything. You are not responsible for everything. Yeah. So that's actually this kind of freedom. Also, from another side, the partner can give to you, the musical partner can give for you some musical impulses which actually you never thought about. Yeah. So that's also it's a big enrichment. And it can actually influence strongly how you deal the form, for example. And so that's basically now what I want to go a little bit and on some more concrete examples. I will play now for first moment just one piece, just the beginning of the piece, which actually. Really based very much on that idea. Basically, I start with one note, and after, okay, what happens with that note? What does this note wants to do? And in such a way, happens with development. And so I will just. The piece is quite long. It's for ensemble, so it's about 50 minutes. I play on the beginning, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It's like a first part. By the way, Lucas was playing then. I don't know if you still remember. Sorry, wait. I think I'm playing here. The song doesn't link me. Yes. Headphones. So what's wrong? It should be better now. Yeah. Okay. Am I playing from TV as well?
Yes.
Ah, from the. Oh, okay. Okay. So just double check. So okay. Okay. This is. I think it's obvious. I'm not going to. Please always ask questions or just tell that if you totally disagree or something like that. It will be nice. So what happens actually in this way of thinking actually it becomes something what I call object-related, so found object, musical found object. Something becomes interesting because this is again as a composer, as any I guess creative person. It's always you're always in development, and it's always a kind of the stages of you think you discover something, you think you discover certain freedom, and after a while you really see that actually this is your inbox in that freedom, and you need to break that box again and move to the next one. That's how Helmut Lachmann was actually calling this a little bit. Like he said, you know, like you are in a cage, and you start to hate that cage. Cage, understand yourself, your own limitations, and you break the wall, and you work as hard as possible, and you really with that big hope that the next that you will be liberated by that breaking the wall. And of course, the first moment is like that, but after that, you look around, you see that's another room of the same cage. And so it's and this is actually some sort of very natural, very human. Is actually we have our limitations. We break our limitations, and we discover new limitations. So and what's interesting for me to work with found objects, but actually if you're open for it, the music sometimes can offer for you certain very unexpected things, which you, with your own glasses, with your own limitations, maybe you would not be able to see. Yeah, and that could be, let's say, something like some interesting structures, some interesting textures, some interesting, I don't know, all possible colors, etc. So that's why often actually I search for sound. Let's say objects. Let's say if I hear even something on the street, I record something, and let's say I see if I can work with that, if I can make into something else. And that's the most interesting stuff. Is actually doesn't need to become an electronic piece after that. But the most interesting thing is actually if there is something interesting, it means that there is a structure included. Yeah. A structure included, which is actually it's worth maybe considering. Okay, so for example, just to give an example, I have arrived in the same beat actually at some let's say high point of this piece. I just arrived to some sort of fermata moment, which is basically I said, okay, look, this takes about I don't know. Half minute problem, and described the actions of musicians. Let's say they are free to play. I mean, they all kind of do some sort of trill, and but at the same time, dynamically you are able to communicate, you do crescendo, and you react, etc. So this is actually it's a vivid moment which I didn't want to prescribe. And I found this quite interesting for me. I like it. I did like it, and I was listening for quite a long time. And this again, what I like it is kind of you have a certain depth and a certain the colors are changing here. So somehow this color or another color, like there's a certain rhythm. I don't know. So something was for me interesting, And it's like I use it. Like let's say, and because I was listening almost like a piece. And of course, when you listen to something like that, you need to add a lot of imagination. You don't listen only what it is, but you also listen what it could be. So I thought, okay, that could be a piece on itself, actually. And basically, and after that, I started to describe for myself what do I like in this sound, and to basically that was a process to kind of uncover, unpack the sound. And actually, I wrote a new piece which is called Corona, and it's not about pandemics. It's about Corona. It's another Italian term for fermata. So this is actually comes like this. And basically, you will hear it just works exactly with that chord. It's nothing else.
So it's the same source.
Yeah, it's the same source. And after that, I could explain a little bit how it works. But it starts, and basically it is that sound now recomposed. Yeah? So, you, I hope the sound experience is not too bad because I just realized that I have somehow on the I know, is this still acceptable? Yeah? Because this is somehow for me, this one is broken. Good. So you have heard actually that same format at the end somehow of this piece, etc. And basically, like in short, very short, it's just how I was treating this. I was treating this previous sound found object as a sort of object, like installation object. What you can hear, just like it's maybe a composition tool. For me, it was thinking. Basically, let's say if you imagine this is that sound, or let's say that would be this ball somehow, I basically the form was actually not so much I was changing that sound ball, but I imagined like in the full sound. But that's what I was doing. Yeah, I was let's say if I take the bigger distance from that object, it sounds less detailed, it sounds less strong. If I come to one particular spot, I hear something very concrete, etc. So I can go inside of the sound, and I can hear from inside out. So and basically, like again, this is how to say. It's for me at that moment it was a certain easy trick to think about it. But basically, and then what the form is? The form is me moving. Yeah, that's what's the form. And actually, that could be, let's say, I could have been moving differently, and that would have not changed the essence of the piece. So, okay, this is very short. Now, sometimes I also do, let's say, if I start with certain sound ideas, so let's say I do not found on the street or in another piece, let's say, I still want to be surprised. Now I really, it's almost like sometimes I provoke let's say music, and I kind of sort of created an idea, a method. How can I provoke myself with something what is unexpected? How can I go out of this kind of fixed my own understanding. And one of the ways is actually it's not real creation, nothing really new. That was happening in, let's say, after the Second World War in Europe. Let's say it's like in a way it's kind of developed stages of serialism. And so yeah, like basically when you were working on a different elements with, let's say, different strategies and putting them after that together. Yeah, that was actually quite common in these times, and I think it's quite interesting for me because actually it could again say that I cannot control everything what happened. I have even no idea how. I mean, what situation will happen. I can control something. And I can, let's say, I can work on these layers. I can imagine that, on, let's say, in certain spots, maybe I have something more important, etc. But basically, there's still a lot insecurity here, and I create that on purpose. So, for example, like I give you an example, which probably my class will laugh about it, because something I was trying to explain once, and I was totally unable to do that, and that will probably happen today again. Just an example. So again, I cannot explain this anymore because normally when I finish a piece, I try to forget everything, I throw everything away, and leave one score, best recording, and maybe a few sentences about what the piece is about. But this is just, or maybe a few pictures like that. I was doing something. So basically, it goes about an accordion beat, and yeah. Okay. Do you see my mouse? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I will try to. So basically, you have clear. It's like these are certain sections from A till U, something like that. So in these sections, so I have like pitches, for example, like so what you see, for example, with pitches, that we're not just moving, but it's how to say, you have a different amount of pitches, yeah? Like here you have 5 or 4, and here you have clearly more, and here you have only 3 pitches, and here again 3 pitches, yeah? That's, let's say, one layer which was going on. Now, this was, for example, about this line. It goes about amplitude. So far I remember. So let's say, so this is relatively big amplitude. It gets a very small amplitude here at this point. So it's actually, you can still have the pitches, but you can divide them in 3 octaves, or you can, yeah. So and this geometry is quite different. Geez, I really don't remember anymore. But anyway, my point was what I want to say was like I have something here as well, and I have something here. So different, let's say, it could be a dynamic, it could be something else. Like you have amplitude, you have pitches, you have dynamics, you have let's say some element as a color, for example, etc. And so they all can have actually a little bit different way of moving in that piece, let's say of maybe 10 minutes, yeah? And then you can, and actually that's what was interesting, and after that I was kind of growing into some sort of algorithm, super primitive, basically working like section by section, but basically trying to ignore all my musical intentions and musical reactions, and basically just to see what happens. And in such a way, but basically using this, and at some point I got material, super boring. I mean, not super boring, but let's say half of it was unusable, or actually, but at the same time it was something what was really triggering me. Something was right, yeah. And so basically, like, that's what I like it very much about the whole process. Actually, I created this found object on the basis, on this first sound bases which was interesting for me. And after that, I was free. I got a bill. I have pictures. I had everything. Now let's jam with that. Yeah. So that's basically how the process was going. And this was for me a very interesting process. So it's actually very strongly liberating. So I can play a little bit of that piece just to see what happened. It sounds like a percussion piece. All these keys. So this is Claudia, and after I wrote the whole cycle of Claudia, so that's maybe another thing what I like to do actually. Again, I take maybe something interesting, and actually I take into another piece, and actually I try to go on with that. For example, I can play you just for a very short moment, just for example, Claudia 3 for ensemble and electronics. Starts with the same material. So here I went actually one step more. With kind of creating this sort of insecurity, or no, insecurity is not, it's not word, but basically like unexpectedness. It's actually it's quite interesting. That's another since we are working here together, with improvisation. So actually I started to dislike more and more music which is perfectly exactly written. So somehow it starts I start to miss something here. And so thanks to my colleagues here. But basically that's what in this score happens. It's actually I try to desynchronize musicians as well. So it's like a very, I can even very quickly show the score. Just what's it called? So for example, like you see the score, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's actually it's synchronized at certain points, of course, but actually the clarinet 1, clarinet 2, violin, viola, actually they're playing the same line, and they consciously I write actually these longer notes with only in seconds. So actually through these longer notes, I mean with specific notation, I guarantee that actually I have my rhythm which I want to have, and with longer notes I guarantee that they're getting out of sync. Yeah, so that actually, and at some point they are meeting together. So it becomes a very simple score. So that's the meeting point, fill up, and that's a new color. Oboe, clarinet, two clarinets, and accordion. Actually, they start here with something else. So that's again something what I like a lot. Question. Now actually we should officially stop. We started a little later. If you still have time and wish, I could go for maybe next 10 minutes, not more, and just talk about one piece more. I don't know how it's. Should I?
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So and basically, okay. This is because it's kind of related. And I wrote a piece for it's called Songwriting. For two, that was a piece written in Freiburg, in Experimental Music Studio, for two keyboards and electronics. And the whole thing was based very much on this idea, how to say it, the relation between letting go and control. Letting go and control. And what I have in this setup, basically, I have I don't know how many, I wrote, basically I have one page of music with, I don't know how many bars, 20, 25 bars or something like that. And I have next set of, let's say, variations of that page based on very kind of specific, let's say, aspect. Let's say in that particular music, I want now to have more rhythmical, stronger, to focus more on the rhythmical part. So it means actually I filter everything what is not rhythmical, yeah. Or I want to out of this make more melodical stuff. Or let's say I just basically filter everything what is less than it's almost like electroacoustical thinking, almost like it's less than a certain threshold. So it becomes like I'm getting under the point. But actually I keep this page structure. So basically like you have like variations of 25 variations, more or less, yeah? And the same bar amount of bars, yeah? And what happens actually, and the two musicians are playing. So that's in this process, and now I'm involving electronics, and actually the algorithm, in an ideal sense, in a realistic sense, is a composer which is doing a sort of DJing. Actually listens to the sounding result and let's say it says, okay, now you play now this page. And in that case, on the screen, actually, the musician was playing, it keeps playing, but the screen changes, and so it starts to play a different variation in that. And basically, it's playing always, keeps playing always in loop, yeah. And so actually, and basically the idea was actually to create some sort of music box. When you just play a key and you start playing, and basically and that's a very important point. Depending how you play it, let's say the computer listens and says, okay, you're playing, you're accentuating very strongly the accents. You're marking the accents very strong. Okay, let's say the next logical step would be for you to play marcato plays. Yeah. So and let's say, or let's say you focusing very much on the linear aspect of this music. Okay, next is maybe to play legato and melodic. Yeah. And so this is very brings the musicians into very unexpected situations because they have two of them. They don't know how in which all these variations they kind of fit together. But we don't know in every time you play, you don't know what will happen. Am I in the background or in the foreground, or a change, or let's say what happens if I play now stronger? What happens if I play softer? So it becomes the whole performing process super creative. And so again, ideally, only computers should really follow that. Practically until now we did, but actually basically I am as a composer just sit next to the computer and just listen and decide, okay, now you play this, now you can that. So it's just a sort of modal form with a lot of situationalism for musicians, and still actually brings the composer in a different situation, because normally you compose before and not during the performance. Yeah. So I can play a little. I can play let's say 3 minutes out of it, just to have the feeling. And another thing too. Okay, this is just to add. These sounds are all coming from piano, but also the computer, let's say, reacts. If you really play strong accent, it adds something to it. Oh, this is prepared in advance, but let's say in the same way as a violin has the possibility to play sul ponticello and pizzicato, etc. But at the same time, it really, again, it depends how you play. Yeah. So, and also the colors, etc. So, okay, so now. Sorry for sound quality because it's. I mean, it's of course it sounds. You are getting very bad mono actually. Yeah, but okay, this is the nose. I'm done. Any questions or any comments or anything else? What I want to say, until yesterday I was very busy, so with the concert last night, etc. But now actually I will be available on, let's say, for any coaching, any questions, any, let's say, because you work also with your individual projects, creative projects here. So just write me on WhatsApp and I'll try to make meetings, etc. So that's why we are here. You wanted to ask me?
Yeah, I actually. Regarding the last piece, in the process of this, do you also find yourself caught into the page actually? Because I mean, as far as from what I understand is that depending on how the musicians play, and then the AI decides what's the next page, and then so in the composition process, you do fix particular things like an accent react to how the AI would react. And then say if, which means that the piece also has this like, what you say, the expect and the unexpected part. But then say like if you really want to go to a complete different texture, where it's like the accent is going completely opposite, or maybe ideally what you connect to the accent, but maybe in the piece you also want to have the possibility of going completely opposite, and you find yourself in a box.
That's a question how many variations you can keep going on with variations by hand and add actually. It's just it's a question of material actually, I guess, yeah. And another and it's another part of the cage which you didn't mention, but it's of course, let's say we have played this piece for several times, and I realized that after a while I did learn certain sequence, so I like a certain sequence. I kept repeating the sequence. Yeah, it becomes a little bit like if you like I mean, we know from jazz, you know, like certain improvisations. You know, you listen to recordings of Barker or something like that, and it will almost identical. Or Oscar Peterson, almost identical. Once I was in a concert, one of the last concerts, like Oscar Peterson was playing. And it took maybe 10 minutes to get from him to the stage, to the piano on the stage. But and he forgot that he played one piece. He played one piece and he forgot it. So he restarted and played it twice. That's very funny, but actually we had drilling lines. You didn't hear this.
It's a link.
Huh?
We call it the link.
Yeah. But it's so funny, huh? So because actually it is, so this is a cage, yeah? It's clearly a cage, but at the same time it's, how do you say, at the same time the piece creates conditions when somebody else is playing, you know, plays with different, plays from a different cage. So that's actually, and that happens also, yeah.
I have a question also about modality. So you seems like you've always having a tonal center in all pieces. Am I mistaken? Like the first piece of rompers, right?
Yeah.
It had this E, I think. And then the
it
last
is because in this particular piece, because actually it's really based on that one sound, yeah. And somehow you have to have, and so basically the pitches are included in that sound, yeah. So if after that, let's say if you go out of this particular, and I mean pitches now, modality, so you have to have a good reason for that, yeah. And the reason, so but since my process was how much to swim in that sound, so I actually didn't really need too much to change from modality to go to something else, yeah, because it actually means a lot. Means let's say if I would change from modality, it means actually the piece changed the, how do you say, the attitude. It's not anymore one, let's say, as I described, you know, like a piece of installation, yeah. But actually, it's a transformation into something, yeah. And you need to have a good reason to do that. And I didn't have any. So that's probably how it explains, yeah. The same with this particular piece, for example, yeah. It's I mean, of course it has, because it's based on the same material.
The miniature scale.
Yeah.
This is about the concept of found sound. You say that
About what?
a found sound,
Yeah.
found
Yeah. Understood.
audio. Yeah. So you say that sound inherently has a structure to it.
Yes.
So when we compose, or rather in this case when you compose, and you associate or superimpose a new form to it, is it supposed to strengthen the structure, or do you suppose that it weakens the inherent structure of the sound?
The point is, I think it's a very good question, and some of my really deep beliefs actually, that actually you're not so much composing a form. The form is inherent in the idea. In the same way, just let's make it again less esoteric. It is, let's say, if you have into a different media, if let's say if you have a thought, a very concrete idea to say, to express, yeah, verbally, yeah. If you speak with too few words, yeah, you do not express it fully, yeah. If you use too many words to express that idea, it's inflation, yeah. So it actually that idea has inherent certain amount of, I don't know, words or whatever how you call it, yeah. But and the same thing I really believe is actually in any musical idea too, actually, because let's say an idea, if you understand it concretely, it doesn't give you too much choices actually about the form and about the let's say the duration. It's inherent. Your job as a composer is to find, yeah. And let's say that's what I was called talking about Corona. That, you know, like. But this is not a form, my moving. It is a form, but actually the whole thing is what is inherent is that the sound stays. Yeah? That's yeah. And okay, and let's say, and after that, let's say moving around could be anything else. Yeah? But there's certain essential parameters are in the idea itself. If so, thank you very much.
Thank you.